favorite moment from last year where you felt like the team took a big step, a game or a play, where you look back and smile and say, hey, that we were building something and we're going to carry it in the next year?
I think that, going into Kansas City was a big win for us there. Kind of got us going there late. I would say that, that's a hard place to win. Yeah. And it was a tight game, and it was going back and forth. It looked like we were about to potentially lose it. But that was a huge one because we had battled some things. We had lost to Cincinnati on the road a few weeks earlier. And to go in there and win kind of when our season was starting to hang in the balance a little bit, to get that win, I think kind of got us rolling. And that Dallas game that I think that really showed our offense, like, man, we're not just a passing team. Like, when we want to run the ball, let's go run it, and let's carry that into the postseason as well.
Bills fans, I love you guys. You guys are the best. I wish I was a Bills fan. Maybe I should just be a Bills fan. Here's my question. We got Brandon Beane coming on, and I like to prompt you guys with a question. You fire it off in the comments. You guys know Keon Coleman. He's your exciting young wide receiver. He's going to be your Rashee Rice this year, right? People say, hey, who's the number one? There's a number one in there somewhere in that receiver room. Josh is going to be fine. Okay, my question is this. Keon Coleman, you've heard him talk. He's a very interesting guy. If you could have Keon Coleman for the day, what would you take him to do? Where would you take Keon Coleman? What would you show him? You could go anywhere in the world. You want to join Keon Coleman to do something? What's it going to be? Maybe you just want to – you think this is funny?
No, this is excellent.
Okay.
I've got a cough halfway into my mouth.
Okay. I was wondering – I apologize to you, Keon, to the mafia.
Thought
maybe you thought – that you had something in your head that would be really funny with Keon to do.
No.
I'm thinking like running with the bulls, shit like that, take him to an art museum. I wish I had 2 weeks with Keon Coleman. Anyways, Bills fans, put it in the comments. What would you show Keon Coleman? What would you take him to do? And here's Brandon Beane, one of my favorite GMs in the league. We're going to get him on a bunch as much as we can. So stay tuned. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. This is a very Bills-friendly podcast. Very special guest, one of my favorite GMs in the game. He had a lot of work to do this draft. I'm excited to see those guys play. Brandon Beane from the Buffalo Bills. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you having me back, Chris.
Yeah, it's great to see you. How do you think Josh did in the schedule release video?
It's funny. My wife was laughing. I was like, "What are you laughing about?" And she told me the whole thing. I was like, He was pretty funny. He's a smart ass. So it fits his, and he loves all the slapstick stuff. So I guarantee you they probably wrote the script and he probably took it to levels 2 and 3 with his backwards candor, but it was pretty good.
A little ad-libbing from the big fella.
Yeah.
So when you see schedules come out, what do people talk about upstairs in the building? Like, what's the first thing a coach is going to complain about, or that you're going to look at and say, hey, this sucks, or this is great, we love having it this way? What do you look at when you see a schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I always look at the first game, who we got first, and where is it at, and then I start looking for short weeks, like where are we going to have short weeks, and then how do our division games line up? Like this year, we played New England 2 of the last 3 games of the year. I for the life of me, don't know why the league does that, but they do. It is what it is. But it's just weird. You play all these games, and then all of a sudden, week 16 you're going to play them, at one, I think, home, and then in week 18 you get to run and go there. It's weird when that happens. It's happened before.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. I figure you probably you're pretty intentional with the game planning as a group, right? Because you're going to see them again in 10 days. And
you already know each other, I know there's turnover rosters every year, but I already feel like you know them. Now, they do have new coaches this year, but a lot of times it's the same staffs, and you're already all over each other. And you're right, how much is going to change? You play a team week 4 in the season and then play them week 16. That's 2 different teams a lot of times.
Yeah.
But playing on week 16 and week 18, probably not a lot going to change there.
Here's a question for Chris, because Brandon's not going to answer it. Would you rather play Jacoby Brissett weeks 1 and 3 or Drake May weeks 16 and 18?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I think that's what the area scouts and all the people that are attending Patriots training camp to see how Drake's throwing the ball are for, right?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Like when you've got a guy you're going to see twice and you might see him, like you wait for the film, right? But like, what would you look at? You know, what can you glean before we turn the tape on week 2, Monday? Like, you know, how do you figure out what's going on, what the temperature is in New England?
Yeah, I think we'll obviously be paying close attention in the preseason, like who's running. Like, are they giving him a start, or is he always the backup? Like, is Jacoby? You know, sometimes you see these teams week 1 of the preseason, and the coach is like, you know, the rookie's not starting. He's going to have to earn this. So no matter what happened leading up to that, you know, in this case, Jacoby walks out there, and then week 2 starts to tell you, like, okay, or this week are we going to try the rookie, or are we going to stay with, you know, Jacoby in this case? And so I think that kind of starts to tell. And you watch the play, you know, or you know, look at the weapons that he's playing with versus the weapons that the starter's playing with. How are they moving the offense? Does it look like there's a confidence or not? And I think that's if you're looking like, man, this kid's playing confident, they're probably seeing that too, and they're going to ride with the rookie and go with it. Or if they're like, man, you're not feeling, you know, the guys vibing out of the huddle, and just the, you know, we all know when that quarterback comes in and everything's gelling. I think we can all kind of see it and feel it, whether you're there or you're watching it on tape. So I think that we'll be paying a lot of attention to that. Now, again, a lot can change from week 1, even if he's not the starter week 1. By the end of the season, a lot can change.
Having nothing to do with y'all. I mean, and God willing, you don't have to do this for another decade or 2 because you got a hell of a quarterback. But when you brought Josh in, do you remember what the thought process was for the organization as far as bringing a quarterback along? You know what I'm saying? You're not doing that now. There are teams that are doing that. But what do you take into consideration when it comes to play a guy now, rest him as long as you can? Do teams typically say, hey, we're not making a decision, we'll see how the season goes? Or do a lot of teams say, hey, this guy's not playing year 1? And do you think there's credence to that?
I think every one is truly an individual decision, where your team is, what's around it. You know, can you protect them? You know, we've seen some of these quarterbacks get thrown out there, and the O-line is a mess, and they're running for their life. It doesn't matter who's back there, and are you doing more harm than good?
Right.
You know, for us in our situation with Josh, I was just talking to someone, you know, I didn't do the greatest job of having the right veteran on the team. We had a couple guys that, some potential up-and-comers, and probably looking in hindsight that year, I brought Derek Anderson in, I don't know, week 5, week 6. I realized, like, Josh needs an elder statesman. We had DA in Carolina with us as kind of Cam's his mate, you know, come off the sidelines, whatever, come fill in a start here or there. Looking back on the whole thing with Josh, was we were like, we don't want to rush him out there, but I think we realized pretty early on we didn't have the answer on the roster, and players know players. And I think with Josh's athletic ability, we started having vets like, hey, most of the time they're like, hey, I don't want a rookie to play. Those guys were like, hey, let's just ride with him, live with him. Like, we see why he was drafted. We'd rather roll with that. And so we didn't start in week 1 against Baltimore. We got destroyed. It was one of those games at halftime. You're just like, can we throw in the towel? And then we talked about it, you know, as you know, Sean and I talked about it. We talked about it with ownership, and just we were feeling the vibes that went off from some vets like, hey, that was terrible. That was no fun. Can we let the young guy roll? And so week 2, we started him here at home versus the Chargers. And was he ready? I don't know. But I think for us at that time, let's just go ahead and get him ready. He was fired up. Like, he wasn't like thinking, you know, you never know how they're going to take it. Do they convince you they're ready? And he was like, hell yeah, give me the ball. I'm ready. And us knowing that he don't even know some of the obstacles that are going to be in his way.
when you look at the wide receiver room, do you think of things the same way? Like the MVS signing, Beane, is he the elder statesman in that wide receiver room now?
Yeah.
Like, does that matter? Because you walk into a totally retooled wide receiver room, and I'll just say this: I'm just full disclosure because we know each other now a little bit, but you know what I think of Josh. Like, there's a lot of people talking about, they got worse outside and all this stuff. I don't think so. I really don't, especially with the tight ends y'all have. So, how do you look at your receiver room this year, and how important is it to have that veteran like an MVS?
Yeah, and I think Curtis Samuel does fall into there. Curtis is younger, but he came out, and that was the last draft. I was in Carolina. We took Curtis, but a couple of those guys. But you're right, we don't have a guy that's been here for 10+ years. In the receiver room, it is a mix of skill sets, talents, whether it's size guys, speed guys, whatever. You said it. What I've been trying to say internally here is people are sometimes just focused on the receiver room, which I like what we've got in there. Don't forget the tight ends. It's legal for them to catch the ball.
Yes, they count as people you can throw the ball to.
Yeah, and so I
noticed that late last year.
I think that team in Kansas City's done pretty good. Throwing the ball to that guy. They run that offense. Obviously, it's around Mahomes, but when you talk about where the ball's going, you better defend 87, and then you usually worry about everything else after that. If you don't defend him, he'll end the game for you. And so we do like what we have in the tight end room is offsetting what we have in the receiver room. There's a lot of, like I said, we got some size, we got some speed, we got a couple of guys between Samuel and Shakir that are good with the ball in their hands, adding some rack value to the group. MVS gives you a vertical, the taller guy. Obviously, we drafted Keon Coleman out of, to kind of fill that X role. Mac Hollins has bounced around.
That's my guy.
Yeah, like Mac is one of those guys. I don't know that he's ever played with a guy like Josh, and I think we're excited, about that. And he's that guy's he's like a glue guy. You can just feel it when you're around him. Like, this guy loves ball. He brings everyone together, selfless. And I think you could throw him the ball on 3rd and 8, and I think he's going to catch the damn thing.
Yeah.
Like it's. I'm excited about the group. I know they got to go out and prove it, and talk is cheap. But I think 17's excited about him as well.
Isn't that it though? It's like you look at Kansas City last year before the season, and everybody. I mean, I'm reading things. Well, who's the Bills' number 1? Well, we don't know right now, do we? I mean, do y'all have an inclination? I mean, I don't think we knew Rashee Rice would have the year he had last year. Like, to me, somebody's got to just emerge and be number 1. Is that how you guys think about it?
Yeah, I mean, we think, and it may even be week to week. It may be this week. Keon Coleman catches 7 balls for whatever. The next week it's Khalil Shakir or Curtis Samuel or MVS. And again, how do the tight ends work in between Dawson and Dalton? So I think we've got it. We've tried to be complementary with the skill set. It's not always going to be on 3rd down. We have had a dominant one, here for some years where everyone in the stadium knew on a big play the ball was probably going to look to go there unless the defense is bracketing him and just taking everything away. Now I think, it's a different way to play offense, and we got to go prove it. We do, but we're excited about the various pieces that we've got.
What was interviewing Coleman like at the Combine? Was there any inclination that he would be the media darling that he's become, because he seems to not have a filter in the best way? Like, did y'all notice that when you met him? In Indy? Yeah. Oh yeah. We actually, our social media team, we let them film every interview that we do at the Combine in case we draft him. So they put out some of his interview. And the funniest, I mean, first off, he wants to let you know that he knows what everyone's doing. Like as the quarterback, I know what the tight end's supposed to do. I know what the X, the Z, the F, whatever personnel package. I know what the defense is trying to like. He wanted to keep talking, and like the coaches are trying to move on to the next play because we load about 10 to 15 plays for each one, and we didn't get to that many plays because he's just talking and showing what about this, and we got to the point where at the end we have him
we have someone that's with our, she's one of our psychs, and so she kind of asked the guy a couple questions on their way out as we're kind of greeting the next player that we're bringing in, and he would walk 2 steps over there and turn around and walk over to the screen and start pointing out. But if he did this and this, and we finally said, Keon, like, we love you, but you got to go, man. The next team's waiting on you. We got to get the next guy. But that was the first time we heard the Tiger wish he could. He was talking about his golf stuff, so it was entertaining to say the least.
You traded down from 28 to 33. Were you confident he would be there? How many contingency plans did you have in place?
Yeah, so we felt, we had a level on the board up here, let's just say, of guys. And then we felt down there towards the bottom of 1, top of 2, that we had a kind of another subset of players. And so when we came down there, we had some offensive players, I would say definitely receivers in that group. And then we had a couple of defensive players that we liked as well. And so at that point, we didn't have a third. And we're like, we've got similar values on all these guys. Let's not move too far, but see if we can get back into the 3rd round if we have enough players there. And we had chances to move back into 2, like well into 2, before we did the deal with Kansas City. We could have gone early in 2. We could have gone to the middle of the round. We had a decent amount of people, but we didn't want to go crazy far. So we just felt like, hey, we've got enough players. Let's go from 28 to 32. Let's see how it shakes. And we got to 32, and we knew that Carolina had let us know they may be interested even when we were at 28 of trading back into the round.
Right.
And so Dan Morgan's one of my good buddies, GM there, and called Dan and just said, hey, I know you mentioned it. Do you want to go? And we thought they might be interested in receiver as well, and their board was probably getting thin, and maybe Leggett was the guy they wanted, I'm assuming. That's who they went and got. I'm assuming maybe if they'd have gone to 28, that's who they would have got. But called him and just said, man, this was a chance for us to move from the bottom of 6 to the top of 5, and we still got Keon, a guy that we felt strongly about, fit what we can do, super smart. We'll be able to pick it all up, and so again, we were just kind of looking at our board, playing it, going, we like who's here. Let's see if we can add some value to our draft and also get a player we're still excited about.
Just for shits, because I know you guys didn't draft one, but I'm particularly interested in this position group. But who did you like at the pass rushers? Like, not to make you fail or pass a test that you didn't have to previously, but who did you like?
Yeah, well, there were some guys in the interior and outside, but I think a lot of those guys were. The Alabama kid was really good. Indy took the Latu kid.
I love him.
Really good. Pure rusher, like strong. Penn State kid. Man, he's a dog.
Now you got to see him. You got to see him a couple times a year.
Yeah, he's a tough ass. There were some interior guys too. And Byron Murphy went. Like, feel like he's going to. The Rams took Fisk. Like that guy, as just a one-on. He's for a shorter arm guy. He reminded me of Kyle Williams, who was, who you would know here. Just, Kyle was a 5th rounder, but, if you go back and redraft Kyle Williams, he made a lot of money,
rounder easy,
a lot of sacks, and that's what we were talking about in the room, just like this guy. So I thought there were some various rushers, whether it's from the outside or the inside.
How hard was it? All the injuries were hard, but, I don't know if I've told you this before. I always say if my son ever said, I want to play linebacker, I'd lock him in a dark room, and show him Matt Milano film all day. How hard is it losing a guy like that early in the season? And how proud were you of some of the guys who stepped up?
Yeah, that rocked us. That was Matt is one of those guys. He's not a big talker. He's a different bird, but there's no one that's going to say anything bad. He's all ball. Like, everything he puts in his body, he lives here. Like, pre-injury, like, this guy he just eats, breathes, sleeps. He lives down in he's got a place down in Florida, and I think it's like a sleepy area. I don't think he's in the middle of he's a simple guy, loves ball, everything about it. And so, yeah, that day that game we went to London, 3rd snap of the game, we lose Daquan Jones. That was tough too. With a torn pec or whatever. And then the next series, Matt has a freak deal, and you're right. You can't replace the energy. He's obviously a talent, but he just brings a dog, an edge, speed, violence, everything that you said. If that's what you want your kid to play, go watch Matt Milano. And he's done a heck of a job with his rehab, and it'll be awesome to get him back out there this year. Just the energy and the juice he'll bring, because Terrell Bernard was starting his first year. Tremaine Edmonds goes to Chicago, and a lot of people were worried about our Mike linebacker, and so Terrell went out there and showed that he could do it. And I thought he stepped up in Matt's absence, and Tyrell Dodson, who signed a nice free agent deal this year in Seattle, stepped up as well as a guy who had been a key backup for us for years. So I thought the guys fought hard. You can't go out to the tree and pull up another Matt Milano and plop him in there. And so that definitely stunned our team a little bit, and we hit some rocky moments mid-season and had to rally there late.
Well, I mean, there were so many injuries, corner being one of them. That's one position you definitely can't go find on the street. It's really hard to do that. One of my other favorite players, Ed Oliver, total stud up front, but outside – You need a guy to step up and be that number one, right? So who do you look at this year and say, hey, this guy could make the jump? Yeah,
I mean, I think Rousseau is still coming on. He battled a little foot deal last year that he fought through, but I think it affected him more than he wanted to let on. Which coincidentally, the year before, Ed Oliver had battled a high ankle that he got week 1 that he told me in February it was still bothering him. Some of these. People don't realize a toe, a foot, an ankle can just get in the way. We brought AJ Epinesa back. AJ had some big plays for us, a couple of actually nice picks, but 6.5 sacks. And then hopefully, Vaughn. Hopefully Vaughn can come back, year 2 off the ACL. He tore that ACL late year 1. We worked him back last year. Maybe did we put him out there too early? I don't know. You always what's the fine line? He was pushing to go.
I'm sure he wanted to be out there. It's that's tough.
It's hard, but hopefully again, year 2 coming off that, for him will continue to help, and just the group as a whole. All those guys kind of we rush in groups. We don't just have one guy. We try to have 6-7 guys that can do it. We drafted a kid this year out of Troy that was Javon Solomon had the most sacks last year in the NCAA. He's got a natural feel. I'm excited to kind of see him, what he can do. Not saying what he'll contribute this year to or not, but we're excited about what he can add.
Hey, Troy's got a good track record with D-line. All right, so the offense, the biggest thing last year was, and this is a tough business, right? You probably love Ken Dorsey, and you guys are all boys and everything, but it's production business, and I just didn't think they were getting the most out of Josh, as schematically and that sort of thing. What do you think it was that allowed Joe to speak Josh's language, or was it? I kind of wondered this. I'll just ask you: was it, hey, you don't have to throw the ball to Stephon 10 times a game? Let's run the offense through the tight ends. Let's run the football. Let's throw the ball to Cook. Was it just a lot more, hey, we just need to spread the wealth a little bit more? And did that take pressure off Josh somehow? Because it seemed like he felt less pressure.
Yeah, I think sometimes you just go back to the basics. Where are our strengths? Let's make the main thing the main thing. Let's don't get too cute, and it's okay if we run the ball. Let's find some balance. And you're right, you don't always have to throw it to one player. I don't think it was one thing. Joe is – the thing I'll say about Joe that, when he took over, you really felt, his communication, just his just all that stuff, just communicating at every level. And I really think maybe that was an area that we weren't doing as much. Sometimes you don't see it till it's not happening, but I think it's more of not a knock on Ken. I think it's just one of Joe's really good strengths is he's an excellent communicator with positive energy. And if you lose a guy like Joe's not, man, this, Joe is, he's, all right, who we got? We're going to do this. We're going to do this. got a plan. This is how we're going to do it. I'm not going to weave. I'm just going to say this is how we're going to do it. And I thought Joe really, in games, sometimes, and let's just talk about coordinators across the league. We've all been around and we've seen them. Hey, I've practiced this all week. Damn it, we're going to do it. Well, sometimes the game changes. You get in a flow. And, the week we were playing the Cowboys here, we had a lot of pass plays in, but we were running the ball well. And sometimes coordinators are like, no, I got some great plays. I want to see them. No, like those linemen were fired up. They were coming off the ball. Everything was just meshing with the run design. Yeah. And, Joe never felt, you know what, we'll get those pass plays in next week or another time when we play a similar defense. That was one of the things that, from a lot of coordinators that I thought Joe really showed is if this is working, I don't need to outsmart myself. Let's just roll with it.
I also thought he was great at finding matchups out of the backfield, switching Cook and like all those little in-game adjustments. I thought he aced those. And okay, so I got a couple quick hitters for you because I know we want to let you go here. Okay, favorite moment from last year where you felt like the team took a big step, a game or a play, where you look back and smile and say, hey, that we were building something and we're going to carry it in the next year.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think that going into Kansas City was a big win for us. There, kind of got us going there late. I would say that that's a hard place to win, and it was a tight game, and it was going back and forth. It looked like we were about to potentially lose it, but that was a huge win because we had battled some things. We had lost to Cincinnati on the road a few weeks earlier, and to go in there and win, kind of when our season was starting to hang in the balance a little bit, to get that win, I think kind of got us rolling. And that Dallas game that I think that really showed our offense, like, man, we're not just a passing team. Like, when we want to run the ball, let's go run it, and let's carry that into the postseason as well.
That Dallas game had to be sweet. Okay, so I was on Bill's Reddit, and they're asking this question on Bill's Reddit. They're going to love that you answered it. Who's the most underrated player on your team?
Ooh, most underrated player.
Somebody
I don't know. I mean,
somebody has an opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I would say.
Is it the nickel?
Taron Johnson, he got second team All-Pro last year, had one hell of a year. We extended him. I would say him, and it's funny, like the guy opposite him would be your slot, and I would say Shakir.
I love Shakir.
Yeah, I think those two guys. And the thing about neither one of those guys is they'll never go out and talk about themselves, and so that's one on each side of the ball. That's why I was trying to decide to go offense or defense here. I would say
keep it fair, man. Keep it fair. Okay, why the hell are you guys putting a roof on the stadium? Buffalo is supposed to be cold. I want to see people getting pelted with snowballs. I want to see people with their shirts off and steam coming off them in the crowd. Like, why would we ever put a roof on a stadium in Buffalo? It's a tough one.
Well, it's not happening. There is no roof.
Okay, good. All right. I'm just making sure. I saw some renderings. I feel like everything's going indoors.
No, what they're doing is it's about half the seats are covered, but the field is not.
Great.
And it's actually gonna help with the noise and keep the wind down a little bit. Like
there we go. Because you guys got a guy that can throw the ball pretty good, so it's kind of an advantage to be able to do it.
Yeah. We're going to grass, Chris.
Okay, so, that's great.
Good. So that was the big thing. Why? It's so people want the people that are arguing for the roof. I'm like, well, then we couldn't do grass. I'm excited about being on grass.
Hell yeah, dude. Okay, and then how many NBA players with a month training could make an NFL roster? I don't know if you've heard this debate. I'm asking every GM I know.
Yeah, I haven't heard it. I'm sure there's a couple. I mean, I'd be lining up Zion Williamson to. I think he could
play
do
tackle.
Yeah, I think he could play tackle or tight end, either one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we wrap up with schedule since we started with schedule?
Yeah, just ask him a schedule question.
You got to go to Miami. There's no way around it. Last year was week 18. What's your reaction when you see this week? It's week 2.
It's at night though.
On Thursday, so short rest, but the sun won't be out.
Yeah, no, I can't lie. That game we had there 2 years was the hottest game. I mean, listen, I was with the Panthers for 100 years, and we were down at Wofford College in Spartanburg, South Carolina, And I didn't think there was a hotter place on the planet when we were down there. But that day in Miami, it was like close to 130 on our sideline, just with the humidity and the direct sunlight. And it just, that morning they were saying there might be some storms, and I was like hoping for storms for our guys.
Get us inside for 2 hours.
It was.
I don't care.
It was god awful. We lost. You only suit up 8 linemen. We lost 3 linemen to heat illnesses during that game, and one of our guys, Tommy Doyle, with 4 snaps to go in the game, tore his ACL, but he knew we didn't have anybody else. He stayed out there and played the last 4 snaps of the game because we were out of linemen, and like I said, 3 of them were doing heat.
I don't know if Zion's doing that.
Yeah,
Brandon. I don't know if Zion's staying in the game down there. I don't know if Zion's getting through the second quarter down in Miami. But
yeah, I don't. So I'm with you there.
Okay, that's amazing. The stuff that goes on, people don't even know about in the league. Brandon Beane, appreciate the time. Best of luck this year. Go Bills. I can't wait to get up there. I want to go through a table. When we get up there, I'll look you up.
We'd love to, man. Come up to camp, come up to a game, whatever. Appreciate you, Chris, Macon. Appreciate you guys having me on. Always enjoy it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yep.